So module number 2 is requirement analysis. So under which we are going to learn about requirement engineering, requirement modeling, DFD, that is your data flow diagrams, scenario based models. And the second part we are going to learn is software requirement specification document in the IEEE format. Software requirement specification is the SRS document. S stands for software, R stands for requirement, and then S stands for specification. So this is your SRS document. So requirement engineering. The broad spectrum of tasks and techniques that lead to an understanding of the requirement is called as your requirements engineering. So broad spectrum of tasks and techniques which lead to the understanding of what? Understanding of the requirements is called as the requirements engineering. From a software process perspective, requirements engineering is a major software engineering action that begins during the communication activity and continues into the modeling activity. So it begins with the communication activity. So your customer will communicate the requirements to the software engineer. So the requirements of the customer will be communicated to the software engineer, that for a particular software I need the so and so thing. So I need the, suppose for a website, I will need a login page, a sign up page, I'll need a contact us page, and so on. So whatever my requirements are there pertaining to the website which I want to make, I will give it to the software engineer. So who am I? I am the customer. Customer will do what? It will communicate the requirements to the software engineer. So communication activity takes place to gather the requirements. So requirements are gathered and continues into the modeling activity. So once I have given my requirements to the software engineer, the software engineer will now model the website. So modeling activity is to model the website. In my case, so the website will be modeled as per my requirements. So first is what? You have to communicate, requirements will be gathered, and then it will continue into the modeling activity. So this is your requirement engineering. Requirement engineering provides the appropriate mechanism for understanding what the customer wants, analyzing the need, assessing feasibility, negotiating a reasonable solution, specifying the solution unambiguously, validating the specifications, and managing the requirements as they are transformed into an operational system. So your operational system is your website. So as they are transformed into a website, you have to take care about the feasibility of the website, negotiate a reasonable solution, specify the solution unambiguously, validating the specifications, and managing the requirements. So all this encompasses 7 distinct tasks. What are they? First is your inspection, elicitation, elaboration, negotiation, specification, validation, and management. So all these are the 7 distinct tasks which come under requirement engineering. So your inspection, that is your starting point of an activity. So your first step is the inspection. How does a software project get started? So how do you start a project? Most projects begin when a business need is identified. You understand there is a need of a business in a particular area, or a potential new market or service is discovered. So some new market is discovered, some new product has been discovered, and you think that this product will be useful for the population. So you will start a service. So service is discovered, so you will start a software project on that. Stakeholders from the business community, example the business managers, marketing people, product managers, define a business idea. So stakeholders from the business community, that is your business managers, your marketing people, and the product managers. They define a business idea. So these people will define a business idea. At the project inspection, you establish a basic understanding of the problem. So suppose you want to make a project for, let's say, a online schooling system. So you need something for online schooling or an online website for lectures. So you will first establish a basic understanding of the problem. The problem is that the COVID-19 is there. So people can't go outside in the offline mode. So you need a website which will help the students to learn sitting at home. So this is the problem. The people who want the solution, obviously the students want that solution. And the nature of the solution that is desired. Nature of the solution means how should the website be? Should it be a website where you can ask your doubts, where you can do whatever you want to communicate to the professor? So the nature of the solution which is desired, and the effectiveness of preliminary communication and collaboration with the other stakeholders and the software team. So other stakeholders and software team will also be communicated, and you will have a meeting to establish a solution for the problem. So this is your first step, that is a inspection step. Second step is your elicitation, practice of collecting the requirements. Crystal and Kang identify a number of problems that are encountered as elicitation occurs. Problems of scope. The boundary of the system is not properly defined, or the customers or users specify unnecessary technical details that may confuse rather than clarify the overall system objectives. So elicitation, problem of understanding. The customers or users are not completely sure of what is needed, have a poor understanding of capabilities and limitations of their computing environment, don't have a full understanding of the problem domain, have trouble communicating the needs to the system engineer, omit information that is believed to be obvious, specify requirements that conflict with the needs of other customers or users, or specify requirements that are ambiguous or untestable. So what is the problem of elicitation? The problem is that the customer or the user does not know what kind of problem that person is facing, or they may not be able to communicate. Sometimes they are not able to communicate certain things because of a kind of a barrier. So they are not able to communicate because of the barrier in communication. Omit information that is believed to be obvious. So they may think that this is obvious, but for that person it may not be obvious. You need to specify it, but they may think it's obvious, so we don't have to specify. Specify requirements that conflict with the needs of other customers or users, or specify requirements that are ambiguous or untestable. Problems of volatility. The requirements change over time. To help overcome these problems, you must approach requirements gathering in an organized manner. So requirements must be gathered in an organized manner. Next is elaboration, adding details. So your third step is your elaboration. Elaboration means adding details. The information obtained from the customer during inspection and elicitation is expanded and redefined during elaboration. So the information which is obtained during the first two steps, that is inspection and elicitation, is expanded and refined during elaboration. This task focuses on developing a refined requirement model that identifies various aspects of software function, behavior, and information. Elaboration is driven by the creation and refinement of the user scenarios that describe how the end user will interact with the system. Each user scenario is parsed to extract analysis class, business domain, entities that are visible to the end user. The attributes of each analysis class are defined, and the services that are required by each class are identified. The relationships and collaborations between classes are identified, and a variety of supplementary diagrams are produced. So in elaboration, you have creation and refinement of the user scenarios and describes how the end user, that is any other actors. So what are actors? Actors are basically the end users in case of a software development with interact with the system. So it will analyze how will the various end users interact with the system and then it will give the conclusions. Negotiation. So negotiation is the fourth step. Negotiation, it isn't unusual for the customers and users to ask for more than can be achieved given limited business resources. So it will negotiate. So customers and users will negotiate with the software engineer and ask for more than what is to be achieved within the given limited resources. So resources will be limited. That means the resources will be only limited to what was specified in the requirements, but in that limited resources you have to achieve other things also. So limited resources does not mean that the resources are less. Limited resources means that the resources are up to the mark as per the requirements specified by the user. So the resources are up to the mark as per the user's requirements. But now what the user is saying? User is saying I want something more also. So now the something more which the user wants, that also has to be achieved using these limited resources. These resources which were according to the initial requirements. It's also relatively common for the different customers or users to propose conflicting requirements. You have to reconcile these conflicts through a process of negotiation. Customers, users, and other stakeholders are asked to rank the requirements and then discuss the conflicts in priority. So first the requirements are ranked, that what are important to you and what are not important to you. You have to rank the requirements and then you have to discuss the conflicts in the priority. Using an iterative approach that prioritizes requirements, assesses their cost and risk, and addresses internal conflicts. Requirements are eliminated, combined, or modified so that each party achieves some measure of satisfaction. So when there is a conflict, when the user wants more, then what is done? They are asked to rank their requirements first. Once you rank the requirements, then the prioritizing of requirements is done. How much cost will it take to complete that project and what are risks associated with that project will be discussed. Internal conflicts will be addressed and some of the requirements which are of low priority. So there will be requirements which are of low priority will be either eliminated or they will be combined with some other requirement. Or they can be modified also because they are of low priority. So we modify those requirements so that each party achieves a measure of satisfaction. Here each party means the stakeholders, the customers, the engineer, each and every party should be satisfied. So the low priority requirements will be eliminated or they will be combined or they will be modified in negotiation. Next is specification. In the context of computer-based systems, the term specification means different things to the different people. A specification can be a written document, a set of graphical models, a formal mathematical model, a collection of usage scenarios, a prototype, or any combination of these. So the specifications of the software will be listed. It can be listed as a written document, as a graphical model, as a formal mathematical model, as a usage scenario, as a prototype. It can be shown on a paper or a combination of these. As a prototype is just a model. So a model will be made to show or a written document. It can be like the SRS, software requirement specification document, is your written document. So specification can be addressed or it can be informed in many different ways. Validation. The work products produced as a consequence of requirement engineering are assessed for quality during a validation step. Requirements validation examines the specification to ensure that all software requirements have been stated unambiguously. More than one interpretation, that inconsistency, omissions and errors have been detected and corrected, and that the work products conform to the standards established for the processor, the project and the product. So this was all about the requirement engineering.